kind of bring it on with some of the email questions that all of you have sent in. And Pat, this one comes from a viewer who says, why are there many denominations of Christianity? Which one is the original?
You know, the funny story is the little boy, the preacher came to lunch, and when he was leaving, the little boy looks at him and says, Pastor, what abomination do you belong to? Well, anyhow, why are they? Because of sin, selfishness. It's my way. This is the way of the Lord. I've got a revelation, and I've got a special calling. The Bible talks about eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bonds of peace till we come to the unity of the faith. We don't have the unity of the faith. There's some who believe in dunking and plunging and, you know, and somebody, you know, what type of eschatology do you believe in and so forth. Okay, so that's, but how many of them, there at least 200 or 300 various sects and denominations of Christianity here in America, and they're all around the world. But why do we have them? It's because of sin, because of selfishness, because of ego. But the Lord wants us, one of these days, we'll all come into the knowledge of the Lord, and we'll come into the unity of the faith. We have unity in the Spirit, but we don't have unity of knowledge.
Well, this person wants to know, what's the original one?
Well, the original one was started with Jesus, but, you know, immediately they were starting to have sex. Some said, I am of Paul. Some said, I am of Apollos. Some said, I am of Jesus. They had the Christ party. They had the Pauline party. They had the Petrine party. And they had the Apollos party in the early church. So it was, you know.
So each of these sects had their own.
They went after their own
branch.
leader, and then they started branching out. So what was the first one? The first one was the church in Jerusalem, the early church. And it got messed up very quickly.
Yeah, this is Mrs. A, who says, my father drinks a lot, smokes, and can be depressed. He visits my husband and me nearly every day and phones every night. He subtly tells us what to do, and I feel smothered by him. My husband and I are very busy, and I feel like I need space. We bought a house for him to live in, as he couldn't afford to buy a house. Is it wrong to feel like this? I end up being rude to him, and then I feel guilty.
The Bible says something about don't let your foot be too often in your neighbor's house, lest they start to hate you. And I think we don't need to impose on our children. I think parents need to give space to their kids. I certainly do. And you honor the fact that they have a separate household. And if they want your company, they can ask. And otherwise, you maintain space.
How do you do that, though, with your father?
Well, I think the father is messed up. You could either talk to him, you know, but it's kind of hard to do that. But you can't allow that to happen because he's ruining his life and he's ruining yours. But he's obviously lonely. I guess he doesn't have a wife anymore. Now, maybe you could find him a wife. All right.
Or a good church group.
Yeah. Here, Dad, I've got something, a substitute. Now you can go play house with her. All right.
Okay.
All right.
This is Arlene, who says, on Facebook, I'm reading about many Christians who believe that if a Christian goes along with the same-sex marriage law or gender identity acceptance, then they will not go to heaven to live with Jesus. My 25-year-old son is born again, and he accepts it for others, not for himself. Does that mean he'll not go to heaven?
Of course not. You're not going to lose heaven because you accept somebody else's lifestyle. That's ridiculous. All right.
Okay, this is a viewer who says, do you think that God would be against my finding a female to have in my life? The woman I'm interested in attends the same church as I do. When I talked to a pastor at the church, I got vibes that he was frowning upon my actions and my interest in finding a mate. Why wouldn't a pastor believe that God would bless two church members dating as long as God's commandments aren't violated?
I suspect that he feels that you and that particular lady aren't compatible. He's trying to spare you from something. I don't know that. I don't know the man. Maybe he's selfish, doesn't want any of his flock going away from him. I don't know what it is, but God says, the Bible says, he puts the lonely in families. And so I think the idea of having a mate, you know, he that finds a wife finds a good thing and gets favor from the Lord. That's what the Bible says. Okay?
Okay, this is Jean who says, exactly what does the commandment, thou shalt not kill, mean? God told the Israelites to kill the people they had to face to get their land. The Old Testament and also the New Testament speak of killing by hanging, stoning, stabbing, etc. There must be a special meaning since it came from God.
The thou shalt not kill has to do with murder. Thou shalt not commit murder. It doesn't have to do with judicial execution, nor does it have to do with war. War is terrible, but there are so-called just wars, and there's a whole theology surrounding it. All right, anything else?
Okay, this is Sherry who says, my husband is reading a book that teaches that Sunday is a pagan worship day. Are we Christians worshiping on the wrong day, and does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. The Bible says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. But the idea is one day out of 7 that you rest, that you spend time thinking about the Lord, you spend time reading the Bible, praying, going to church, etc. And you cease secular activity. You stop buying and selling, and you have one day just for you. The Bible says the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. We need a day of rest. We absolutely need one. And the societies that have no day off, I mean, they go crazy, and you'll do the same thing. But the Arabs have Friday, the Jews have Saturday, and the Christians have Sunday. So we all have a day, and, so enjoy it.